Folks, Jeremiah is not known. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Jeremiah is excused. Tanya? Here. Linda's here. Chuck? Here. Lori? There. Lisa? Here. Tom?
Here.
Okay. All those are here. We need a motion to adopt the agenda. Are there any additions? There can't be any additions. So I need a motion.
I'll make that.
I'll second then.
Chuck motion, Lori is a second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The first thing on the agenda then is to approve the retirement resignation of Mary Holman. Is there anything you need to say about that?
No, not
Not at all?
we're grateful for the work and,
Yep.
and she's been a pretty good egg for.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of years, 24 years, yeah.
Yeah, pretty good egg, that's the right way to say it. Good staff person.
Okay then. All right.
We need a motion then.
I'll
to accept
motion
that.
to approve her retirement resignation.
I'll second it.
Motion by Lori, second by Tom. Any discussion or questions?
No,
Any
we should
discussion?
thank her for
Yep, absolutely.
sticking it out here for so long and
Absolutely, she's been here,
being a good
Yep.
person, yeah.
done a lot of things, and we thank her. Any discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, on to the track resurfacing and turf installation, all that good stuff. Are we
Okay.
waiting for him to come talk to us, or?
Yeah, we've got Jeremy Anderson from Design Tree Engineering, who's been shepherding the project from a civil and bid perspective. He's here. And I see he's muted a little bit there, but Jeremy, are you there? Let's see, he just got is there something to? I have to call him.
He's trying to talk, I see that.
I see that, yeah. I don't know why that, is this a TV muted thing? Is that a volume thing on the TV?
I wouldn't think so. I would say it's gotta be him because it looks
Oh,
like
is
Hazeman
it?
has a camera on.
That's what I would say, no camera on there.
Yeah.
The mic is on.
Yep. I can hear you, that's good. We can't hear you.
Do you want me to try to,
Oh,
there he is.
There he is.
There you go.
Try with the remote? How about if you
Try
click the little three
volume on
buttons?
the remote.
Yellow button.
Hit the yellow button up in the corner.
Yeah, the little
Yellow
yellow.
button
Oh, up there, on your screen,
With my
Doug.
finger?
On Doug's screen.
On Doug's
Doug has to do it.
Computer.
Thing.
What does that do? Hello, can you hear me?
Find out.
There it
Oh, there we
goes.
go.
There it
There we
goes.
go.
We can hear that. Can you turn your volume up on your computer?
That one was the only one that you could hear. You hear this TV
Does
here.
that mean that these others need to be, or is
The
that?
volume needs to be turned up on the TV, on one of the TVs anyway, I'm thinking.
This is TV3.
Oh, there's that one.
Now,
There we go.
can you talk to us, Jeremy?
Can you hear me now?
Hey,
I can hear you.
there we go. Can you hear me now?
Technology is great sometimes.
Yeah, there we go, we're good to go. So Jeremy also has another meeting tonight, a board meeting tonight too. So we'll do this remotely. Before we get started, and just to kind of set the table for this evening, last week, well, actually even dating back to December when the board approved the levy to finance the turf portion of the project. That was the start. That was going to finance the payback of the bonds, so to speak, or their certificates. Even before then, the district had been setting money aside by way of long-term facilities maintenance revenues to address the track. Then came the idea of turf. I made the decision in December to apply the levy by way of a lease levy component to the taxes. And then that set the wheels in motion to approve the renovation of the complex, right? So that's kind of how things got started. Jeremy was involved in the estimates that formed the basis for the levy, probably back in late September, early October, when that took place. So as it goes then, the work continued on into things that catapulted us to last Monday night, when the bonds were sold to borrow funds to finance the project. And then, so that gets us to tonight. Bids were being secured along the way by virtue of your partnership with Sourcewell. Sourcewell and your membership to Sourcewell allows you, or allows them, to do bidding on your behalf, which is a very, very nice thing. And certainly it expedites the process of purchasing and large-scale projects. So we're here tonight to address those bids, because there's a couple of reasons. The large amount that we're dealing with, and now we're at about $2 million to address the complex. And then two, we believe that you as a board should take action to address those bids. One, because of the amount. Two, because I think the auditors would ask you to do that in some way, shape, or another. So that's why we're here tonight, to bring the project based upon not only an administrative recommendation, but your work leading up to tonight, to take action on the project bids. There is one bidder, and Jeremy maybe can get into the technical side of this, is that there is one bidder, and that is Field Turf. And I think I explained that in the board information sheet, that Field Turf then works in consort with Fisher Turf, Benyon, and then also Dunix to provide the civil part of the project. So there's basically one bid, and because Sourcewell has done that for you or on your behalf. So with that, Jeremy, I could turn it over to you, and if you have something to add relative to the project.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, you did a very good job of explaining it, Doug, and I apologize for not being able to be there in person tonight. But, so, and as part of the getting bids, I mean, they got multiple bids on the civil work from Dunnick, Peterson, and New Look, and a couple others. So there was a competitive bidding process, and Sourcewell does meet those requirements required by state statute. But in general, the project as a whole, basically we're reconstructing the entire track, putting down new bituminous, new rubber surfacing, all of the field events, the long jump, triple jump, shot put, all discus, all of those events will be upgraded to new. And then obviously there's the conversion of the football field from natural grass to turf. So all of that work, along with all the site prep work associated with getting the project to be able to complete that stuff, is included in the price that you have in front of you tonight. Do you want me to go into the alternates at all, Doug, or
It might not hurt to just give a glance once over. I know we've got a couple cement pads that we're asking to be poured. Those are pretty self-explanatory. The bituminous piece might be something of interest to the board, too.
Yes. So there, on the second page of field turfs, there's 4 alternates listed. The first alternate is for a higher grade of turf. It's a 9-pound 3-layer system rather than a 7-pound 2-layer system, which there's some additional warranty that comes with going to the 3-layer system. There's better safety going to the upgraded system. There's quite a few benefits, but with those benefits come the additional cost of about $75,000. The other alternates, the reason that we split those out is because those were not items that were included in our original design. So one would be installing a visitor bleacher pad on the east side of the stadium. That's alternate number 3. Alternate number 4 is a bituminous pad that would go around the south side of the stadium, outside the fence around the track to that visitor bleacher pad. So if you put in the visitor bleacher pad, this would give the visitors a way to get to those bleachers without walking on the track itself. And then alternate number 5 is to finish installing the concrete underneath the existing grandstand. And the thought behind installing that concrete was to provide some covered storage space for some of the new athletic equipment that I believe is part of the agenda as well. So those are the 4 alternates that were listed on the second page. And the rest of the co-op proposal basically goes through what's included in the proposal and what's not included in the proposal.
Does everybody understand the alternate number 1 that talks about the pound, the turf quality? Jeremy, we have about at what point in time, if the board didn't take that tonight, is there a time later where it potentially could, and in the project?
It would have to be fairly quickly because the turf is one of the long lead time items that needs to get procured and into production relatively quickly, so that we can make sure that it's ready for football games this fall. So I would say if it's not made tonight, it needs to be made within the next week.
If you were to do that, obviously that sends the project over budget. And then that would mean that would come out of district reserves. And I don't know how comfortable you are with that. The surface that is bid here is a good surface. There's no doubt about it. Would we have liked to have had the 9-pound? 100% we would, but it obviously sends the budget. It hurts the budget. In other words, you'd have to go into reserve to do it. And at this point in time, with the quality of surface that you're going to get, I guess I can't. I don't know how we can do it.
I would think for another $850, there's no reason not to upgrade to the 3-layer. Right, say the performance, that's cost.
Yeah.
Got it.
What is the difference?
75,000, 74,000.
We talked about that, what the difference would be.
Yeah.
And I know
Then
we
we
thought it was
hope-
around 100,000, so we're like,
we had hopes for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, it's certainly up to you, but
What's the difference of the warranties between the two?
Jeremy, do you have an answer for that?
I think the higher grade of turf, and I don't know if Kelsey or Brad are there, but I think it was 5 years. You get an additional 5 years of warranty on the 9 pound turf versus the 7 pound.
What is the initial warranty on the 7 pound?
I believe it's 10 years, and then it bumps up to 15 years with the 9 pound.
What will it cost to do it? I mean, you know what I'm saying, because that would get stretched out. Well, that's a cost. It might be worth it. Yeah.
And this is actually the,
Do they all hold up equally to the weather like we had this morning? I'm saying that because I went up to the River of Life Church and checked out theirs today. And boy, what a mess from the rain that we had this morning. It's all wavy and spongy, and we aren't gonna have that with this one, right?
When you get drainage, there's probably a better drainage system in this than
Yeah.
there is there.
Yeah, I don't think it's river like.
Yeah, on a turf field, there's vertical drainage, so it drains through the turf, through the stone and into, there's a drain system, there's a pipe or a flat drain every 10 yards. And that gets the water and carries it off the field from underneath. So you don't have puddles sitting on the edges of the field, it drains vertically through the turf.
I'm gonna go and take a picture of that tonight. It looks really good. I hate to think of next week that it's gonna be a mud hole as you bring in the bulldozers, but that's just my 2 cents worth on this.
Jeremy, Kelsey sent you a postcard or a picture of a postcard for free sand backfill. Is that something we could potentially utilize to save us some dollars?
I did send it over to the contractor or the people who are bidding it, so I leave it up to them on I don't know if they included it in their bid or not, but if they included it in their bid, then they'll certainly take care of it, or take advantage of it.
Okay. I was just wondering if that was potential cost savings that we could get yet to maybe go to the alternate number 1, but. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if they included, if they utilized those numbers or not.
Okay, thank you.
What's the estimated cost of when, after the 10-year warranty, and even if we stretch it to 15 or whatever it is, what is the estimated cost to refurbish it? The field?
Well, to refurbish the field, you would have basically, 15, it depends on the use. Sometimes it's 20 years, sometimes it's 15 years, sometimes it's 25 years. But basically all the site prep work is still in effect, but then they tear up, or they have machines now that will, it brings the turf in and it separates the turf from the infill, and then they can reuse the infill the next time. So unknown what inflation is, but it should be, if we were doing it in today's dollars, it would be less because you can utilize some of that infill on the next round.
So what's the cost then now? What would it cost today if somebody's rejuvenating their field?
Well, the cost of the turf in their bid was like $450,000. I don't have the exact number of what it would be in today's dollars, but it would be less than that when you have to replace the turf.
Budget time, $70 budget time.
10 years, we'll have a whole different
I
product.
think Eden Prairie was one of the first to put in turf, and when they redid theirs, I think it was 20 or 25 years. It was somewhere in that window. And they play soccer, lacrosse, boys and girls for both, and football on that field.
And we're talking about a substantially better product at this time than they put in originally,
Probably.
would be.
Correct. Correct.
My feeling is if we're gonna go with any of the alternates, it should be number 5. That's a pretty good bid for that. We're gonna add any of the alternates in. If we can, we just can't add them all as much as we'd like to, yeah. Brad or Kelsey, do either one of you guys have opinions?
Okay, I did, since we're being asked, we never went to a field that had the 9-pound turf. And all the fields that we went to were incredible. That's all I can say. I called, and Kelsey called some schools too. We called schools that have had turf for 12 to 13 years, and they said that they think they can get at least another 6 to 7 years out of it. And they're happy with theirs.
All of them have said they'd never
Never
go back.
And then the other thing, I think the other thing that we have to realize is that we're getting something that I think, that is moving the programs forward too. I mean, something we never had before, so we can't really, like, when we were talking, Kelsey and I were talking, we can't be greedy about this because everything is to us is like, it's so exciting, and I think it is to the kids and everything else. The products that we saw, I was blown away by, that's all I can say. We went to McRae, you went to see a beautiful, facility, it has the same colors as ours. And it has a 7-pound turf, and it's very spongy, it feels great. We were down there on a very cold day, there was snow on the ground, and it's still, everything else had snow in it, and there's no way you could have played in the grass. The snow was completely gone, it was drained, and you could have played that day, no problem. And it was great.
In Wilmer, we got to see like the softball markings, and unless you're standing pretty much right on top of it, you have no idea that it's even there. And again, that was not 9.2 pound turf. In the comment to Tom's question about alternate number 5 of concrete under the grandstand, that to us would just be able to have the new equipment last longer just because it's not laying on dirt, gravel. And so anytime we pull those mats out, that's eating away at the bottom. And so it just, for us, it's more of a longevity piece for the new equipment coming in, being able to have that.
The other thing that kind of does also is it does give a place for our kids to go that would actually have cement, because there is a place underneath there where the kids can go and after them, at least kind of a place to get all the wind.
Or the
And
rain.
right now, if it's raining or if it's snowing, you're standing on dirt and you get so muddy and the things fill up with mud, it's almost a disadvantage to go in there. So I agree with, I think I totally agree with Tom that if you're looking at something, number 5 would be a really important piece for us. So that's why we never saw a 9-pound turf, at the time we went, and like I said, all of them were incredible. We saw one that was 6 or 7 years old, and I couldn't tell, it looked like to me, it looked like the day that they were.
And the praise was 4 months old when we went to see it, so we got 2 very different fields.
And they were both places were super good with us as far as, this is what we wouldn't do, this is what we would do again. And not one of them mentioned, 9-pound turf because it does bring the cost down. But the things that they talked about is the practical stuff. And we relayed that to Doug. Making sure that your gates are by where you have to do maintenance, so that, because the one, they put it in and they didn't have gates by the maintenance thing, so they had to drive all the way around the track to pick up the truck garbage, which the janitor didn't like. So those kind of things, but.
Making sure the gates are wide enough for the ambulance to get through,
Right.
like just logistical planning pieces that.
So,
didn't really have to do with the actual turf.
So if we do the visitor bleachers on the other side, is there, I mean, the home side is fairly big.
So my plan with that would, you know how there's two portable bleachers on each side of our grandstand, would be to put those over on the other side. And just from a supervision standpoint for all of us who are at football games, it just makes things a little cleaner per se. Having visitors on the opposite side instead of intermixed in with our fans, it can just get a little rowdy and, yeah. So that would be my plan if.
That's what that would be for. Okay.
Then, you know, the sidewalk piece, I don't necessarily think it's necessary, because we can use the portable fencing that's in the equipment bid to kind of just make a pathway for that.
So if you took a look at, you know, the two funding streams that you have for this project, track and turf, if you took a look, because you have the bond proceeds, right? And you have the reserves from long-term facilities maintenance that support the cost of the project. So, if you were to accept, alternates 3, 4, and 5, those, you still would come in under, the revenue streams that you have. Not by much, it's very close, but you still have enough to do that. That is not, again, I think you've heard, we're resigned ourselves to the 7-pound turf. And so, but items 2, 3, or items 3, 4, and 5 bring the project under the financing vehicles that you have.
Could you explain, could you say the financing vehicles once again, Doug? Because
Okay, so last week, 1.231 million was approved by the board in certificates, okay?
Yep.
That's dropped into the district's coffers on May 19th or 15th, something like that, okay? So that was 1.231. There's just short of 800,000 projected reserve, about 793,000 is projected LTFM reserve on June 30th of 2025, in other words, the end of the fiscal year. So those are the two streams that you have dedicated, or excuse me, the two streams that are available. Those LTFM reserves were those dollars that the board dedicated toward the track resurface. So those are the two funding streams that you have available to you for the project.
okay. So adding those 3 alternates, you're saying would keep us on budget? Is that also, that's not including the equipment list, correct?
That does not include the equipment list. So, right, that, and we've kind of talked all along that would have to come out of reserves,
Yep.
and that kind of thing. So also included within that budget and estimates here is about a $54,000 contingency. That in talking with Jeremy, that $54,000 contingency would basically be done underground. In other words, the dollars that you may have to use that were coming in over budget, that contingencies addressed, is all the underground work. Once that's done, then the contingency becomes available for other things, if in fact you would need it. But how do you say that the time at which contingency would be used would be infill. Okay, so just know that that's in there too.
So are you recommending that we do 3, 4, and 5 then?
I am, yep.
So what is the number of the turf itself? This bid here for 74,000 is the 3-letter, which is the 9-pound.
That's the 9 pound. Yeah.
What is the,
Turf is 7.2, it's on the first page. the first line under the second black line under the site, subtotal site work,
It's like
407,000.
407,000.
Yeah, that's
So that would be over and above the 407,000.
Right, alternate one would be
Yeah.
about 407.
Yep.
Well, then I make a motion to accept the bid, with alternates 3, 4, and 5.
So the committee member want to second that?
We're looking for a second, otherwise it's gonna die.
I'll second that.
Chuck makes the second. Tom's motion was to accept the bid with the alternates 3, 4, and 5. Have any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? And I will call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
A nay, same sign. Motion carries. Wonderful. So then we have to look at the equipment bid.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly right, sorry, yes. So, the way obviously the like, what's the word I'm looking for, it's just like when you renovate a house or you build a house, then comes the furniture. And this is kind of the same position you're in right now with respect to the complex, is that that there are needs because of the new setting. There are needs that the programs have that come with it. And sometimes when schools get into a building mode and they pass a referendum or whatever the case, they have a line item called FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And they usually generate about between 8 to 10% of the project total for that, and it gets to be a project. We don't have that here, but it kind of falls in line with that, whereas you can see the project lists, because we are adding soccer, there are needs, goals, balls, stuff like that. So that project list, as you look at softball, potentially, and the need for playing when those conditions aren't right for weather conditions aren't right for us to play on a grass field, we'll be able to do that here. So all of the project list is there for us. Track, soccer, softball, and some other sundry equipment needs for the district as well, in the amount of $76,468. What was done was the solicitation of quotes, because this falls under the bid limit. The solicitation of quotes was done internally when we got close to 3 different quotes, not 4. And as we looked at the quotes in totality and showed them to the Buildings and Grounds Committee, Borch's Sporting Goods out of Marshall had a global better quote pricing for us, and so that's where this price list comes from, is from Borch's. And with that, I certainly defer to Kelsey and Brad too on this for further information, and certainly the committee has looked over this list as well.
One question, those lines that are marked in yellow, that
Yeah.
says already purchased, is that part of the 76.4 down the bottom,
That would be considered as part of it, yeah.
but we've already got it purchased, so.
This is, again, this is not funded by the bonding, this will be a long-term maintenance funding this.
No. So the equipment piece will come out of district reserves. And
Okay.
quite honestly, the way what'll happen is that as we build that fiscal 26 budget, we'll write if it's approved tonight by the board, we'll write this into the district's budget. But yes, right now, the way we knew this was coming, that it would have to come out of district reserves to fund this.
Okay.
So it is not an LTFM deal, it is not a bonding issue.
Sourcewell had nothing to do with this being.
Correct.
You sent this out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And this is all purchased from the same company, even though the websites are different? It's all the same company?
Yep.
And your due diligence, if you will, saved us a lot of money, right?
Like to think so, yep, yeah, because we had to compare each product from, and not only in terms of price, but quality too. So, that's what the quotation process does, forces us to look at these things from a little bit more of an efficiency angle.
And does this include that storage? The storage area that you would put, this does not, is that something separate yet to come? Or that's in with the?
That was just-
That was
That's
just
in there.
the
That's in
cement,
there.
concrete under.
But that's all, but it's the building part too of it, right? Or it's just
No,
concrete?
It's already there,
It's
it's
already
just
built.
It's
dirt.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's just
Okay.
putting
So
the
you're putting
concrete
concrete underneath what's already out there?
There you
Correct.
go,
Okay.
and that was in the
Yep, okay.
project.
Yep, I thought you were adding another one to it,
No.
to make, more storage.
Brad,
Chuck, just a good example, Chuck,
Chuck,
a good example of a bidding process, we were looking at a discus cage, because we need a new discus cage. There's some new rules coming out in a couple of years that force you to have a double net in case a kid is standing there and he's warming up behind that net. It doesn't go through the net, because that has happened, because right now you only have to have one, so we believe that's coming. They haven't set a time on it, so anyway, we went to look for that. And by looking at a different company, we saved $8,000. They wanted $12,000 from one company, and the other company we got it for under $4,000. So that's how, we went through every single item and looked at that stuff.
Yeah, we anticipate that's our equipment needs for the coming year.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
other
if
than,
the-
Soccer balls were on it, right?
yes, soccer balls were on it.
yeah, there's the list. Okay.
Yeah.
How long do you think some of this equipment will last? I mean, I would have guessed years.
I mean,
They said, when I call them soccer goals, because I happen to work with Josiah on that part.
Yep.
And they said 20 to 25 years if you take care of it.
Yeah.
If you take the nets off, he said you'll probably have to replace the nets after 10, but that's with everything, But otherwise, he said the goal part should last from 20 to 25.
balls are gonna be shorter term life. So it just depends on how much usage it's all getting. I mean, I would hope that portable fence lasts a really long time, 25, 30-year mark, because it probably won't get used as often and frequently. Whereas, the cones and the balls and whatever else, that'll get more use, will again have to be.
They're consumables,
Yeah.
so they don't have a shelf life.
Yep.
Yeah. Good question, good stuff.
any more questions, folks? I guess we'll call for a motion on that.
I move to approve the equipment list.
I'll second it.
Motion to approve the list. Lori is second. Is there any further discussion on that? Any more discussion? Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. See, that's not so hard to spend money. I believe then we are done.